Audiophiles. You come in two types. One type likes as few features and controls as possible that get the job done. The other type wants stuff. Lots of stuff and fiddle factor. Today's review is the Fiio K15 DAC/headphone amplifier. I can tell you there's a lot going on. Let's unbox it. Okay, so what we have here is a DAC/headphone amp. I've had quite a few across my desk lately. Feed them some digits, listen on headphones. Simple, really. But then, clearly someone at Fiio HQ thought that simple wasn't really enough for some of their customers. Audiophiles who want more. So yes, feed the K15 some digits from your computer, as I probably would, or from your other, probably wide range of digital sources. The K15 will DAC your digits into real analogue signals. Or take your input straight from your analogues, and the K15 will be your headphone amp. If I say that the K15 is more than just a DAC, more than just a headphone amp, I don't think that's a bad description. Word of warning, with my ancient ears, I don't do subjective reviews. I wouldn't be reliable. Whether you can rely on other reviewers' subjectivity will be up to you, but take in a range of opinions before you buy. I would, of course, say if I hear anything bad, noise, distortion, frequency response issues, but I'll tell you now that what I've heard from the K15 is clean. Any true audiophile will value the back of their equipment just as much as the front, possibly more so. So let me cover the analogue connections first. Line in on RCA. That's not going to get anyone too excited, but of course it needs to be there. With my sound engineering background, of course, I should sneer at RCAs, but I keep an open mind. They're fine for home audio. But hey, you could almost miss it. Balanced line input on a 4.4mm connector. I'd imagine you'd want to drive this from equipment with a balanced line output, maybe similarly 4.4mm, or XLR with an appropriate cable. You can drive the balanced input from an unbalanced source. I've done that loads in my time. But I suspect you'd probably just use the RCAs. I might cover that in a future video, if I see interest in the comments. Why no balanced inputs on XLRs? Well, the simple fact is that most of the space on the rear panel is devoted to digits. The case would have to be bigger, or something digital missed out. I could say that we're catered for in analogue, but you only get inputs for two sources. An analogue audiophile might have a phono preamp, cassette deck, CD player, and, glory be, maybe even an FM tuner. The K15 is what it is though, and anyone needing more analogue inputs would just have to look elsewhere. Output-wise, we have RCAs again, and nice, chunky XLRs. I almost want to hug them. Still around the back, this is where things get interesting. What you expect and what you maybe don't. What you and I expect are USB-C, my favourite, coaxial and optical, the big three of digital inputs. I'd be using USB-C from my computer or probably optical from my TV. I do listen to my TV on headphones, I might mention. Some shows bury the dialogue so much among music and sound effects that it's often difficult to know what's going on. I've noticed even young people have this issue too. Headphones, I find, are more intelligible. Or maybe actors should speak more clearly. Comments? Now, as I said, the back is where things get interesting. What you don't expect? Well, I might have half expected Bluetooth. I don't know whether I'm such a fan, but it would be interesting to know if commenters use it regularly. To stream from their phone, perhaps? I notice aptX adaptive in the full manual, but I don't see the magic word lossless in any of the marketing materials nor instructions that I've looked at. But anyway, you probably don't need it. Wi-Fi. Excuse me while I put up a title. Yes, networking on Wi-Fi. You can stream to the K15 using AirPlay or Roon. I use AirPlay myself to stream from my phone or computer to my Apple TV box, which then goes through my Pioneer Kuro, once the best TV in the world, to the rest of my system and speakers. Maybe not every day, but a couple of times a week. And if I didn't have this facility, I'd wish I had. So yes, once networked up and passworded, I can AirPlay to the K15. Now, don't get too excited. The K15 isn't a streamer. If you want a streamer, then I'd say you need to buy a streamer. I think one needs to be realistic about one's hopes. But you could go to Bandcamp, buy my music as lossless downloads, put it on your phone and AirPlay it to the K15 to your heart's content. But real audiophile nerds, and I don't think I've used that combination of words before, may scoff at Wi-Fi. It's sharing the air in your room with hundreds, maybe thousands of digital signals. Think of all those channels you can get in your TV from satellite. All those signals are in your room mingling with your Wi-Fi. Mingling inside your head too. But perhaps we won't think about that. I could well imagine my imaginary audiophile nerd hating this. And the answer? Ethernet. You can have a wired connection. Well, I don't know that I can get Ethernet from my phone, but I can get it from my computer. Well, in theory anyway, I could take an Ethernet cable from my computer to my router, then a cable from my router to the K15. You know what? I have very few credentials as an audiophile, and I suspect Nerds Club wouldn't have me as a member. I'll just leave this open as a possibility. I did, however, connect through my Wi-Fi from my phone, an aging iPhone 11. This worked fine audio-wise, and the artwork comes up on the screen of the K15, which I like. But it wasn't always the right artwork, but that of something I'd played previously. This, according to the manual, is an iOS issue. Bar humbug. As for playing from my computer, the internet advises that Spotify on the Mac isn't compatible with AirPlay. I'm sure commenters will correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I find. I can, though, set my computer's sound output to the K15 and audio comes through fine. No artwork, though. To be honest, although I'm all for having a massive range of options for those who want them, I'd probably stick to streaming from my phone via AirPlay, or if I want to play from my computer, then USB-C, which, as you know, is my favourite. Phew, the back has exhausted quite a lot of my energy, so I'll just throw in that you can play directly from a USB stick. Like it's 2005 or something. Well, we get a touch screen. Steve Jobs apparently was right. Knobs and buttons are the past. Well, mostly. Let me just swipe you through to some of the options. Would that be enough options for you? I said that audiophiles who like Fiddle Factor will like this. If I wanted to make the most boring video ever, I'd probably go through them all and explain what they do. But hey, you can get the Quick Start Guide and full manual online. Links in the description. And if you're seriously considering the K15, I absolutely recommend that you do. I can't resist others, though. Let's see what else we have. Okay, Thankfully not too many. Firmware update, you'll be wanting that. Factory debug, I think I'll steer clear. But press the volume knob. Hard to resist, really. So there you go. 2 options for what happens if you press the volume knob. Now, what else is on the front? From left to right. First we get power on, which is actually standby off. The real power switch is on the back. No worries, my arm is long enough to reach. Next, a funny little rotary switch labelled PO plus pre, PO, pre and LO. Fortunately, I've seen these labels before. Phones and preamp, phones, preamp, line output. It's the output selector switch. You'll get used to it. Line output, though, you'd have to learn from the manual, the full manual, not the quick start, that this sets the output level to maximum, and you'll control your listening volume, presumably on speakers, through your power amp. Moving on. L, M, H, SH, UH. It's a coarse output level control for your headphones. I've seen this type of control before, and it's useful to match the sensitivity of your headphones. Then you can leave it alone and have fine control over level with the volume knob. As for the menu control, this will select your input source. Now, hot stuff incoming. The headphone outputs. I don't think I've had a DAC/headphone amp that caters for all 3 of the most common output formats. 1/4-inch jack for old-timers like me, balanced 4.4mm for thoughtful audiophiles who think they need it, and the cherry on top of the icing on the cake, a 4-pin XLR socket. You know, when I made my own balanced headphone amp back in the 1980s, I used a 4-pin XLR. Good times. Power output, a specified 3 watts per channel. With most headphones, that will blow your brains out. I'll call it enough. Single-ended 1/4-inch, 1.4 watts per channel. Still enough. Oh, I nearly missed out the USB-C connector on the front. My favourite. This duplicates the USB-C on the back and takes priority if you use it. Okay, stuff to fiddle with. I'm going to edit the highlights for you that affect what you'll hear. Equalizer. As I've said probably many times, I prefer flat. There are, I didn't count, but lots of preset EQs. I hate preset EQs, just saying, but I'm not going to judge people who love them. Well, maybe I just have. But you can set your own EQ in 10 bands. Not quite the 31 bands that pros use, but well capable of making a difference. Setting your own EQ, you'll need the Fiio Control app for this. I'm just going to mention it for now, because it would be a whole other video to cover the EQ properly. You'll have fun finding out for yourself. Next, filters. The full manual says precisely this. Okay, not much help, but I suppose there'll be an update at some point. I'm guessing that these are different versions of the reconstruction filter that turns sliced and diced digital audio into analog. They're all a compromise, but I think it's a good thing to be able to choose. The frequencies involved, though, are so high, it doesn't make any kind of a difference to me. But if your hearing going up close to 20 kHz is good, well, maybe they might. One more, balance. This is a control that's often omitted, but will be essential to anyone with asymmetric hearing. My ears are asymmetric in terms of frequency balance, but not level so much. But I was chatting the other day with someone who's been diagnosed with a 10 dB difference. A balance control, I'd imagine, is a must. Did you know? As well as this model K15, Fiio also has the K17. 17 compared to 15, 2 more, right? Well, I haven't tried the K17, so I can't make too many comparisons, but it is interesting to consider what features the K15 lacks compared to the K17, and possibly other DAC/headphone DAC/headphone amps. So, in no particular order, yes, there's EQ on the K15. Not that I'm bothered, I like flat, which is what I'll get on the analog inputs because the EQ only works on the digital inputs. I'm sure there's a good reason for this, but I'll just point it out to those who like to EQ their analogues. You can't. Next, the internal switched mode power supply. I don't mind, but there are some audiophiles who prefer linear. Actually, this isn't a problem because there is a DC power input. Audiophiles will actually like that because it gives them an upgrade opportunity. And why not? No digital output? Well, this has been mentioned by reviewers. I'd say, though, that the clue's in the title, Digital to Analog Converter. Commenters, please chime in. Why should a DAC have a digital output? No 12-volt trigger. I don't use this myself, but I probably would if I could have a feature that turned everything on, then after a few seconds turns on the power amp. I currently do this manually in my studio setup because it's the right thing to do. Anyway, there isn't one. One more. No ground lift. If there were a ground lift, though, I'd like to know how it works. Not by ungrounding mains-powered equipment that's meant to be grounded, I hope. Having said all of that, I'd rather think about what the K15 has than what it has not. It has a lot. I've said that already, and to my mind, there's plenty here to work with. Always a good question, but difficult to answer because I already have what I need. But if I needed, or just wanted, a DAC / headphone amp, I'd give it serious consideration. What might hold me back, but it's just me, is that the K15 has more facilities and options than I need, and I could maybe look around for something simpler that costs less. But those who want versatility, nothing wrong with that, I'm sure will be pleased at what the K15 can offer. As always, this was sent to me, but other than that and any affiliate links, there's no payment nor influence involved. So I can say what I like, and I've said it. One more thing. I've been going on for a while now about how I want to see headphone amps specified down to 8 ohms. Yes, many amps can drive low impedance headphones just fine, but I want to see it in writing. I think that's it. See you soon.